What's going on, fragrance family? It's your man Gator, better known as the Novice Nose out here in these fragrance streets. Man, if you can't tell, man, by the bags under my eyes, it has been a long day. I'm tired out, man, worn out, man. But, and you can't tell by the stickers on the hoodie and everything, it's been an active day. So, man, I am just ready to turn it in. But before I do, guys, I wanted to talk to you guys about my scent of the day today. I actually talked to you guys about it a couple of weeks ago here during Christmas time. It was on my quick ship list here of fragrances that you could get that were really, really good, that people would be impressed by presentation wise and scent wise. This was one of those fragrances, man, and we're going to talk a little bit about it today. Now, the fragrance that we're talking about here is this one. This is from LATTAFA, of course. That's Big Tafa. It is called Taureau de Combat. Let's see if I can get it there. Oh, there we go. By LATTAFA Pride Collection. I think people got thrown off a little bit here by the bull. This is like a literally heavy metal removable bull that's sitting on the top of this bottle. Like, it's interesting. It is a very interesting bottle here. But the fragrance itself is gorgeous on the inside here. Now, this is inspired by a fragrance that was released from Creed last year called Centaurus. Centaurus is this beautifully spiced tobacco, dried tobacco. It is a gorgeous fragrance, super well done. One of my favorite releases here from Creed in a while. So I was really interested in seeing what LATTAFA was going to do with that DNA. More specifically because there's already been a few good interpretations of that DNA out there. So I want to see how LATTAFA was going to pull it off. So before I get into anything else, let me get into the dry down. See, I'm tired. So the note breakdown. Top notes are going to be amber, cardamom, cinnamon, and benzoin. Heart notes are going to be cashmere, heliotrope, jasmine, and tobacco. Then your base notes are going to be vanilla, tonka bean, and patchouli. Man, my beard is looking even more patchy than normal right now. That's because I was tired, man. Even my hairs are like, it's time to lay it down. They're retracting right now. Anyway, so when you first spray this on, and let me get a good spray on the out of here on the atomizer so you guys can see it. Very nice atomizer here. Got some good coverage on it. So one of the things I like about this fragrance is that it really does a good job of replicating and interpreting what Centaurus is from the opening of that fragrance. What you get is a very warm, very inviting style of spice, right? So it is very much lively as well here. It is not one of those that's kind of like a muted spice. It really does tickle the nose. You're getting the warmth from the spice and that cardamom. I mean, it's a very inviting, enveloping style of fragrance here in the opening, but you're also getting the nose feels of that cinnamon. It's really like popping you here. So it really does like give you this lively but inviting warm feel when you first spray this on. Now, I'm gonna stop there because that is the big difference between this fragrance and one of the other popular interpretations of the Centaurus DNA. And it's this guy here. And this is one of my favorite fragrance pickups last year. This is Rayhaan Crimson, as you can see here. This is a damn good interpretation of that Centaurus DNA. But there are some big differences between these two. This one actually will open up with a spiciness, but not quite as spicy and vivid as the spice in here. This one's going to be a little bit more muted compared to the way that this one opens up. Now I'm going to do a little bit of compare and contrast between the two. I love both of them, spoiler alert, but there are distinct differences between them. So as you get into like that 30-40 minute part of the dry down, you really start getting a little bit of that tobacco essence that starts to come in there. Well, actually it starts coming in from the beginning, but it really becomes more prominent, more robust. It really starts to kind of open itself up here as you get into that 30 to 40 minute mark. Now, one of the big differences I find in the tobacco in here as opposed to the tobacco in the Rayhaan is that the tobacco in here is more like the actual tobacco in Centaurus, and that it's a more dry tobacco in the opening. The Rayhaan, it kind of comes across almost like a wet tobacco. So it has a different kind of feel here as it goes into the dry down here, a little bit of a different scent, it gives like it's not as good a quality of tobacco as it is in the LATTAFA one. But the LATTAFA one does something a little bit different than the original Centaurus and this one does, is that when it gets into that tobacco, it comes across almost a green style of tobacco. It almost comes across like tobacco leaf. So while it is kind of a dry tobacco that you're getting, it also kind of leans towards the green side. It gets kind of almost kind of airy. It's not as pungent a tobacco and that you would find in the Centaurus DNA here, or actually in here. It's a wet tobacco, but it's pungent in here. In here, it's not quite as pungent. It's a little bit more airy, a little bit more breathable, a little bit more livable here. So that's another big difference between the two. Now, it's still closer at this point in the dry down than the Rayhaan is. The Rayhaan, like I said, it's got more of a little bit of a wet tobacco here, but this one's going to be more of the drier style of tobacco. The other thing is that the ambers aren't really jumping in at this style of this part of the dry down like it is in the Rayhaan. In the Rayhaan, about 40-50 minutes into the dry down, that amber is already kicking and starting to really kind of take control of the fragrance here. This one is not doing that. You're still really getting more of the influence of the tobacco. Now, as this thing goes further in, about an hour and a half or so, 2 hours in, you really start getting that influence of the vanilla and the ambers. But this one's a softer amber. It's not a robust amber. It's almost like a underpinning of an amber. What this one does a little bit different than the original is that the vanilla that's in here kind of comes across less resinous and almost more of a lactonic kind of vanilla. So even though it's not completely milky, it does kind of lean towards more of a lactonic style, a little bit more of a creamy kind of vanilla as opposed to like an ambery kind of vanilla. It's not like a strong, dense style of vanilla. It's just a little bit more airy, a little bit almost frothy in here. So that is a huge difference from what the original fragrance does and from what the Rayhaan does. That being said, but the way that this works with the airiness of that vanilla, that kind of almost like frothy style of vanilla, and it is still a little bit touch ambery here. It's not an overdose of it, but you got that little bit of that along with the kind of greenish style of lean that the tobacco takes in here. It really gives it a different feel to the, than the original fragrance here and to the Rayhaan. It actually makes it more of a twist on that Centaurus DNA than it is an actual clone of the DNA. It's part of the reason I like this fragrance so much is that both of these have a place in the collection here. If I want to go with something that's going to have a little bit more of a robust amber in the dry down with a little bit more vanilla sweetness here, and a little bit more of a potent, strong dry down, I go with this one. If I want something that's going to have a little bit of a twist going into the dry down, but it's going to have the notes be a little bit more vivid, this one would definitely be the one to go with here. I dig both of these styles. Both of these are really great. If I had to pick one right now, I would pick this one just because there is a difference in the way that it presents as opposed to the original fragrance does. The other reason I picked this one is performance. So with this one, I'm looking at about an arm's length of projection here initially, and that arm's length really kind of goes throughout that first like 2 hours of this fragrance here. As it kind of shrinks in, I mean, as you get into like that 6th hour or so, you're still maybe about 6 inches off skin. It is a strong projector. This one's an even stronger projector. This one actually lasts for a good while. So you're saying, why would I pick this one over this one? It's because the nuance in this fragrance and the fact that it is not such a beast, it makes me go with this one even though the projection isn't as loud. This one comes across as a little bit more inviting, a little bit more subtle, a little bit more versatile than this one, than the Rayhaan is. Both of them though, equally good. It's just I prefer this one, but there are some days where I might pick this one up and just want that ambery vanilla vibe on the hoodie. So either way, you can't go wrong. But I will tell you, if you have not put your nose on Taureau de Combat, try it out and see what it's like. The sillage, by the way, I didn't even mention the sillage. Sillage goes throughout the life of this thing. This sits about 8 to 9 hours on my skin. I sprayed it this morning actually, and I'm still getting slight whiffs of it off of my skin. So, and that's been like 12 hours ago. So that's just something. Anyway, guys, if you have not put your nose on it, try putting your nose on this thing, because it's worth the sniff, man. And it's not a complete clone of the original. It's a twist, but it's a twist that's done very well. Have you put your nose on this thing? Let me know in the comments, guys. And as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, share this video with somebody you know that loves fragrances. And as we always say, guys, no matter what you're doing, however you're doing it, make sure you make today the best day ever on purpose. Peace out.